Iran's top security body just says that they used the same number of rockets against the U.S. airbase in Qatar just now, 6 of them, which is the same number of rockets the U.S. used to attack Iran's nuclear facilities in Fordow. Iran just fired 6 ballistic missiles towards the U.S. base in Qatar. Here you could see interceptions launching approximately from Doha, intercepting all 6 of the ballistic missiles launched from the Iranian coast. At the same time as the Iranians moved their missile launchers into place, Israeli fighter jets responded to the missile launchers and we're being told, are taking on strikes against the Iranian missile launcher. So the Israelis striking the Iranian missile launchers. Here you're seeing interceptor rockets being fired to take down the incoming missile fire from, or ballistic missile fire from Iran to Israel. This now just happening moments ago. You could see some of the interceptions on video occurring right here. The sort of light that you see in the sky, as well as some of the flickering or explosions indicating some interceptions here. Again, we'll play that video there. Again, a little difficult to tell exactly as these are either the interceptor missiles or actual interceptions taking place. We are understanding right now that all 6 over Qatar have been intercepted, and that there are now reports of multiple interceptions occurring over Iraq as well. So it's worth seeing the trajectory of where Iran sits. Iran sits here. We've got an embassy in Baghdad. We've got bases in Iraq. Missiles were heard in southern Iraq, and then also towards and above Doha, which is where their international airport is, which is almost perfectly in line with the Iranian coast, and then where our U.S. airbase is here. I'm very bad at pronouncing it, so I just call it Al-Udeid, because Iran, if you attack us, well, Iran, you dead. Okay, anyway, what's worth knowing is that Donald Trump has escalated and ramped up some of the commentary around what's been going on in the Middle East in just the last couple of hours here. First, we got a shelter in place from the U.S. Embassy in Qatar. We also got a shelter in place from the United Kingdom before these strikes took place. In addition to this, the Wall Street Journal broke the news that the government of Iran was indeed moving into location missile launchers along that coastline to fire upon Qatar. This seemed to have been pretty well signaled. Not only that, but we saw a lot of flight trackers all of a sudden indicate significant diversions away from the Qatar region, something that's very, very typical when you have an incoming strike that has been forecast or sort of signaled to opposition military. So, for example, here's a flight that was going from Beirut to Doha, which is actually just out of shot, kind of where I am in the picture over here, sort of in this corner over here. And you can see they were kept in a holding pattern once, then twice, came out of the holding pattern and diverted to Bahrain. So you did have commercial flight activity that was shut down entirely over Qatar. This is now the live imagery here. You can see planes grounded on the floor or at the airport with their transponders on, and no air traffic over Qatar. There's also talk about the shutting down of UAE airspace. You see flights leaving the area here, as well as potential talk of shutting down Saudi airspace, though that never actually came to fruition. It may not, especially now that all 6 missiles launched from Iran towards Qatar have been intercepted, and it looks like most of those towards southern Iraq have also been intercepted. Here's just another sort of diversion that we've seen. It's also worth watching what the response is and what's going on with Donald Trump and this nuclear escalation we're getting from the White House. Dmitry Medvedev, the former president, who was considered the puppet president of Russia while Putin was term limited out, and Dmitry was the puppet. As soon as Dmitry finished his term, giving sort of a pause in terms, Vladimir Putin came back into power, then actually passed a new law that there would be no term limits. So Putin's basically in power forever. But anyway, so the former president, Dmitry Medvedev, again, seen as a puppet and kind of a shill for Vladimir Putin, says, what have the Americans accomplished with their nighttime strikes on 3 nuclear sites in Iran? Number 1, critical infrastructure of nuclear fuel appears only to have been minimally damaged. So he's basically saying you didn't get the Iranians. However, you also are now encouraging the continuation of the enrichment of nuclear fuel and, quote, we can now say it outright, the future production of nuclear weapons. So in other words, he's saying the quiet part out loud. And he says a number of countries are ready to directly supply Iran with their own nuclear warheads. Not great. This is very, very bad. Additionally, we are getting now further explosions being heard over Doha. Maximum alert status has been declared with orders issued to take shelters in bunkers at Al-Assad Air Base in Iraq. So it looks like the Al-Assad Air Base in Iraq is now also being targeted, in addition to the Al-Udeid Air Base in Qatar. Now, also, we're going to go through this Trump spat here in just a moment with Putin again, but it's worth knowing that the United States appears in just the last week or so to have removed a lot of their aircraft from air bases in this region, likely because they knew they were going to strike Iran, and likely that Iran would respond. Here's June 9th satellite imagery showing about 20 to 30 aircraft at the top center, about 4 or 5 here, a few on the outskirts here, and then some more right here scattered, about 5 of these here. And if you take a look at the post-satellite image, you can see gone, 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 gone. Each field has been emptied out in anticipation of strikes from Iran against this airbase. Again, Patriot interceptors were visible in Doha. We showed that at the beginning of this segment here. And these helped defend against these incoming ballistic missile launches from Iran. It does look like Iran says a missile operation called the Annunciation of Victory has been launched against the U.S. bases in Iraq and Qatar. So far, that Annunciation of Victory has been entirely intercepted. The United Arab Emirates is closely monitoring the ongoing situation. There's talk about GPS jamming in the Strait of Hormuz. This approach forms the UAE's Integrated National Framework for Emergency and Crisis Management. The White House and Department of Defense are aware of and closely monitoring the threats in the region. It's also worth noting that the pizza tracker was right again. You could see the Penn Pizza report was indicating very unusually high levels of pizza deliveries. This is the Papa John's closest to the Pentagon, just in the hour that the attacks were launched. Israel says it completed a series of strikes on missile and drone storage strikes or units in western Iran. Now that's interesting. So here, this is Al-Assad Air Base in Iraq. You'll notice that this particular base is not southern Iraq, though it's possible that missiles were launched from here along this coastline and then pointed at Qatar and the Al-Assad Air Base above Baghdad here. And that's why we heard of interceptions in southern Iraq and also in Doha. Again, Doha would be your interception point for the airbase right here, which I call the Al-Udeid. In other words, you touch one of our Americans and Iran, you dead. Okay, so in addition to this, I want to go back to the Donald Trump and Dmitry Medvedev yapping. So Donald Trump wrote this on Truth, which appears to be warmongering and slinging of nuclear comments or nuclear war comments. I don't really like this because Medvedev just sort of casually talks about, hey, other countries stand ready to supply nukes to Iran, which then potentially the Houthis or whomever else could get their hands on, right? Not great. Okay, great. So what does Donald Trump do? Well, Donald Trump, like 15 minutes after we posted a video talking about Medvedev's threat, because obviously Donald Trump is also a subscriber of the Meet Kevin channel. I hope you are too. Donald Trump then posts, did I hear former President Medvedev from Russia casually throwing around the N-word? He calls the nuclear word now the N-word. And saying that he and other countries would supply nuclear warheads to Iran. Now, I want to be clear, he didn't say that they would. Medvedev said that they stand ready to, which is a little different. It's kind of like, hey, I have a gun and I could shoot someone if they break into my house. That's different from, did I just hear Kevin say he would shoot somebody? You can kind of see how Donald Trump is escalating that a little bit, right? Medvedev is like, we're ready to. And he's like, did he say they're going to? Okay, so Trump is definitely escalating with this post, right? Did he really say that, or is that just a figment of my imagination? You could see Trump here being passive-aggressive. He's escalating, then he's being passive-aggressive over... That'd be crazy to have heard that. Because if he did say that, and if confirmed, please let me know immediately, the nuclear word should not be treated as so casually. I guess that's why Putin's the boss. By the way, if anybody thinks our hardware was great over the weekend, in other words, our B-2 bombers, which they're not the newest, right? Trump, by the way, currently in the Situation Room with the Defense Secretary and Joint Chiefs of Staff. Anyway, Trump goes on to say, if anybody thought our older hardware was great, far and away the strongest and best equipment we have is our nuclear submarines. Now, there are nuclear-powered submarines, and then there are nuclear-powered, nuclear-capable launching submarines. I'm assuming he's referring to submarines that carry nuclear bombs. They are very powerful, and I'm assuming he meant to say the most lethal weapons ever built. They just launched 30 Tomahawks, and all 30 hit their mark perfectly. So in addition to our great fighter pilots, thank you to the captain and crew of these submarines. Okay, alarms have now been reported at the, another airbase here. This looks like in Kuwait. We have alarms being reported at the Ali Al Salem airbase in Kuwait. Airbases are still, multiple alarms still sounding at airbases across the Middle East, including Syria, Iraq, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, the UAE, and Oman. Sirens reported in Bahrain and Kuwait. Unverified reports indicate explosions at the Al-Assad airbase in Iraq. Again, so far, the 6 launches against Qatar, which appear to be have been very, clearly intercepted. Those, you can see Fox just now starting to talk about the video that we talked about like 15 minutes ago. That's all right. You have most of these ballistic missiles being intercepted, but some unconfirmed talk now about potentially some impacts. The Iranian state media has announced the beginning of the operation Annunciation of Victory against U.S. bases in the Middle East. Again, just now beginning here. UAE has just closed its airspace. And so this is just now happening, which means we could potentially see live traffic diversions in the region. Yeah, take a look at this. Here's an aircraft that looks like it was just diverted. Unclear here. Multiple aircraft over the Persian Gulf. Here's one that's in a holding pattern at the present position, wanting to go to Dubai, but Dubai just closed its airspace. So you're not going to be able to make it to Dubai. Dubai closing its airspace, suggesting that multiple other aircraft... Yeah, here, look at this diversion. Coming in, it was going to Dubai, U-turn out of there. So here's another one. Look at that. They were so close to landing. They were probably on approach to land. U-turn. Here's one that looks like it took off from the region. Here's another one that looks like it took off. Funky holding pattern here. They're trying to get out of Dubai. UAE's airspace is getting pretty thin. Nothing over Qatar. And then even Bahrain's airspace right now is just shut. I mean, look at this disaster. This plane's been in a holding pattern for a while from Bahrain to Naples. It's just trying to get out of there. I mean, this is quite a disaster going on. Bahrain says sirens have sounded. Citizens and residents urged to remain calm. Iran's armed forces say they will not leave any attack on Iran's territory unanswered under any circumstances. Okay, so far all this sounds bad, and Donald Trump's yapping about nuclear weapons and the quote-unquote N-word, little odd version of the N-word, but whatever. Here's some more interception footages. Let me throw this up on screen. The good news is, so far, it doesn't, there are no reports of casualties or actual impacts. We can see these interceptions, these Patriot missile defenses, really helping aid in intercepting these launches from Iran. And then again, Israel attacking the launching facilities on the coast of Iran. But the question is, if a drop of American blood is spilled, what kind of response is then going to come out of this? So best case scenario, Iran really forecast this attack was coming. Hey guys, we're about to launch some rockets against Qatar and Iraq. And then you get all your Patriot missile batteries ready. You tell everybody to shelter in place. You go through all the stuff. And then what happens? Iran goes and shoots their missiles. We shoot them down. Iran gets to save face by going, "We have enunciated our victory against the United States. How dare they attack us?" And then the United States goes, "We intercepted all of that." "Yeah, but our people want to know that." And then hopefully, "Hey, can we go back to negotiating now?" "You hit us, we hit you." Okay, let's talk again. I don't know. That's the best case scenario. Iran's armed forces right now say that U.S. regional bases are a, quote, major weakness and thorn in the side of U.S.'s war-mongering regime, not a strength. Well, again, so far, knock on wood, it does not look like any base has been hit. Aircraft are currently being scrambled from the Prince Sultan Air Base in Saudi Arabia, probably to get them out of the area, given that multiple rockets appear to be continuously launched here. Though we're not seeing so far any reports of impacts. Again, fingers crossed this continues this way. The Qatari Ministry of Defense also now reporting that Qatari air defenses intercepted multiple missiles aimed at the Al Udeid Air Base. Short while ago, 15 fighter jets launched by the IDF completed a series of extensive strikes in western Iran. The targets include military infrastructure, missile storage sites, UAV storage sites, and then, of course, the launchers along the coastline. So far, the Strait of Hormuz still not closed down. Fingers crossed that it does not get shut down. The impact of shutting down the Strait of Hormuz, probably worth a more detailed video, but would, in expectations, be somewhere around 3.5 times as bad as the Iranian Revolution or the Houthi attacks in 2019. Potentially as much as 4.6 times as bad as the Kuwaiti invasion. Not great. Markets rebounding following the initial panic of talk that strikes were launched. We were actually live during this time and mentioned this U-turn as it was happening here. So if you're not subscribed yet, make sure you're part of the channel and part of the Alpha Report. Circle and Tesla still doing great today.
Why not advertise these things that you told us here? I feel like nobody else knows about this.
We'll try a little advertising and see how it goes.
Congratulations, man. You have done so much. People love you. People look up to you.
Kevin Paffrath there, financial analyst and YouTuber. Meet Kevin. Always great to get your take.